Hello my friends and welcome to another Heavy Metal Blasters special. This isn't a top 10 or anything, this is just an insight on how good thrifting can be and how important to a nerfing hobby, especially when you're a collector like I am, can be. So let's dive in. I'm going to tell you guys right offhand, I did not buy most of my NStrike things in box. Most of my NStrike items, besides for a few exceptions, were either given to me or were thrifting find. And most of the harder to get blasters were thrifting finds, like the Alpha Trooper and my long shot. But the other day, I had a thrifting find that is just epic, and it's my prize piece of my collection so far. It's not the most powerful blaster, it's not even the most rare blaster, but it is one of the most important blasters in current Nerf history. Before I get into the significance of this blaster, I'm going to take you back into a little bit of NStrike history. Alright, Nerf decided to revamp its entire line into NStrike, and it's four or five, I guess you could say, blasters at that point, where the Unity power system, which was the combined Hornet, Titan, and Scout blaster, which was the first blasters that ever incorporate the tactical rails. They also had the Secret Strike, the original Secret Strike, and the original blue Firefly. Now, those did okay. Those were pretty revolutionary in their own, but they didn't really have as much lasting power as the blaster I'm talking about today. The blaster I'm talking about today came out in 2004, along with the Night Finder, and it's I believe third paint job. This blaster has so much significance in history of nerfing, and the significance to most nerfers, because in a lot of cases, in at least one of its repaints, was their first blaster. I had a repaint of this blaster. It was my first NStrike gun. I had a few Nerf guns before that, but I don't really have any memory of them, or as big of a memory as I do with my first Nerf gun. And I'm going to stop being around the bush. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. The blaster that I've been amping up to this point is the original Midnight Blue Maverick. Now, most of you guys, you probably know this guy. This is the Maverick to you guys, but to the guys who were around when the NStrike line first came out, this is the Maverick they knew. This guy is awesome. The internals are pretty much the same, but I've been told that the spring is a little bit tougher and the air restrictors are a little bit looser, so it gets a little bit more oomph to it. It shoots a little bit farther, which I think is cool. The Yellow Mavericks, still awesome. I love the Yellow Mavericks. I have like 5 of them, but this guy is awesome. Just because it's so rare to find these, like, I typed in Midnight Blue Maverick on eBay and I found a few hits, but the prices were reasonable, but I wasn't willing to pay for them, just because my money is kind of scarce at the moment. I'm so happy I got this find, though. If you guys can find this, if you're a collector and you like vintage blasters, which I consider this vintage now, just because you have to go online or be lucky at a thrift store just to get one, pick this up if you can. If you can find a reasonable price online, pick it up. But I will not mod this. This is the one Maverick I will not mod, just because of the significance in their history it has, and I'll probably never be able to find this paint this paint job again. This is why I thrift. This is why I thrift for blasters. It's because I can find treasures like this that I won't normally be able to find. That's where I found my long shot. An Alpha Trooper. My friggin' Firefly I found at thrift shops. All my vintage blasters, except for my Triple Strike, are thrifting finds. So, if you guys like any of the vintage blasters, I urge you, once a week, just drop by your local thrift shop or Goodwill if you have one. It's so awesome to be able to find these because it's Nerf history. It's seriously, it's Nerf history, and I love Nerf. And I love playing with Nerf guns, and to be able to have one of the older ones and to be able to experience the ones I wasn't really to experience when I was age appropriate for them, it's a nice feeling. I get to experience my hobby the way it was a few years ago, back when a bunch of the innovations were happening. This was besides for the Firefly, this was really the first revolver. The Firefly was a revolver, but it was a shoulder-mounted revolver. This is a pistol. You've got 6 shots and a pistol, and that wasn't really heard of in the other lines. Now you don't have to shoulder the Firefly, but it's designed to be shouldered. This you could just hold in your hand. There's no real big thing to it. It's 6 shots, it's a revolver, and it's pretty damn cool. You could also, once again, I'm going to do a WTF review of most of my blasters, if I have them in good enough condition. I'm going to do a WTF review of the Nerf Maverick, just because there is a few things with it that are flawed, even though it's one of my favorite blasters of all time. But I'll get to that in another video. But right now, I want to talk. The last thing I want to talk about is that with Nerf, imagination is king. With Nerf, you can be that first-person shooter. With Nerf, you can be the hero. With Nerf, you can be the villain. With Nerf, you can just be awesome. There's so much you can do with just your imagination and Nerf gun. It's limitless. The only limits are the limits of your imagination. This blaster is my favorite in my collection so far, just because I finally can say I own one of the major pieces in NStrike history. Not necessarily one of the major pieces in Nerf history, but in NStrike alone, this is what did it. This was on the shelves. It had the most repaints. It stands the test of time. If you saw my strong arm review, I hinted that it was more like a Spectre successor, but without the Maverick, you wouldn't have the Spectre. Without the Spectre, you wouldn't have the strong arm. Without the Maverick, you wouldn't have NStrike Elite. You wouldn't have most of the modding community, because not only is this one of the first blasters a lot of Nerfers have, it's one of the first mods that a lot of Nerfers do. My first mod was a Maverick. Drax's first mod was probably a Maverick. Kemosabi's was probably a Maverick. If you're a Nerfer and you're a modder, somewhere down the line you've modded a Maverick. There's no... If you're a modder and you have never modded a Maverick, please tell me in the comments. And tell me why you haven't. Like, maybe you just never got to it, or maybe you just never thought it was worth modding. But I'm enough gushing. thrift. You'll be happy, trust me. Thank you for watching my gush video about the Midnight Maverick and what treasures you can find while thrifting. My next video is going to be a YouTube Nerfer spotlight, where I shed a little bit of light on one of the awesome Nerfers in the YouTube community. Thank you guys and have a wonderful night. This is Ethan Grant from Heavy Metal Blasters, signing off.